Maithreyi Seetharaman, and this week Real Economy kicks off in Strasbourg, where we're looking at how partnership and collaboration can breathe a new lease of life into the European economy. On the show, Europe's Commissioner for Regional Policy tells us how partnership can lead to tangible economic results for you and I. We'll look at how a city like Liverpool, which lagged a little behind, is trying out collaboration to regain some of that lost glory, and how adopting the best practices of strategies that have worked can potentially help us in addressing some of the biggest issues we face today. A little bit of elbow grease and patient collaboration and money can change the trajectory of Europe's economy. We're here at the European Parliament to talk about how partnership at the EU and national level should trickle down into a collaboration with local and city governments, civil society, businesses, basically giving us all a sense of ownership about our investment and policy decisions. Here's a crash course on how that trickle down is supposed to work.
Europe's countries first draw up plans for what they want to invest in using the EU funds available. To do that, they talk to representatives of different regions and cities, civil society and the private sector. After this collaboration, countries then submit a partnership agreement on what is needed nationally to the European Commission, which adds on more ideas. This becomes a legal contract when it's approved and adopted. The investment decisions then become actual operational programs, or OPs, as the funds come in. These programs are the actions that had priority for investment in the partnership agreement to which everyone contributed, and can be for and between countries, regions and cities, with all stakeholders cooperating amongst themselves.
Here inside the European Parliament sit our representatives, including the ones from a city where its people and government have grabbed this opportunity of partnership at the macro level, which has led to lots of local collaborations, all to change the storyline of lagging growth. I'm talking about Liverpool, where Sarah Chappell went to see how.
The port city of Liverpool was a commercial powerhouse throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. But by the mid-20th century, her docks and manufacturing industries were falling into decline, and the economy hit a wall during the UK recession of the 1970s.
For decades, the city of Liverpool thought her economic glory days were long consigned to the past. But she's been getting a facelift, and the change is more than skin deep, with growth projects powered by lots of Liverpudlian elbow grease and plenty of collaboration.
Massive regeneration over the last 25 years, driven by both private investment and public funding, has helped to build an economic infrastructure for business to thrive. Close to €12 billion via the European Regional Development Fund and the European Social Fund is being allocated to the UK over 7 years, with 220 million of that destined for Liverpool. The Local Enterprise Partnership, or LEP, is Liverpool City Region's principal body for bringing together businesses, civic leaders and institutions to drive the economy forward.
Well, all the city leaders have been working together for a good number of years to work out what are our real strengths and competitive advantages. What are we great at here, nationally and internationally? Where have we got global capability? And our strategy is about building on that.
The port is at the heart of that strategy. A new deep water terminal able to handle the largest global vessels has been built. It's expected to transform UK logistics when it opens. In the revitalised city centre, initiatives to stimulate SME growth have given birth to a plethora of young businesses. Gary Carney is a co-founder of what he describes as an independent department store. His firm got going with a start-up loan from the Merseyside Special Investment Fund, which is backed by local, national and European funding.
I think the reaction that we've got has been very supportive. I think everyone sees the value in what we're doing, and I think it's reflected in how quickly the store is filled up.
Liverpool, however, still remains home to some of the most deprived areas in the UK. Tackling those is the major challenge ahead, according to the LEP.
You start by creating the right economic infrastructure where there are jobs for people who have that aspiration. We now have to make sure that we reach all parts of our society.
Joining us on the show is Europe's Commissioner for Regional Policy, Corina Crețu. Commissioner, very nice to have you back on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
I want to start by asking you if you could translate what partnership really means for regular people.
It's about involving everybody, because we cannot decide from Brussels what the countries, the regions, member states need. I think it's very important to cooperate together, because we are now in a year when all the projects and all the investments for the next 7 years are designed and selected and implementing.
Well, what's so different now than it was in the past?
Many countries had a lot of problems in the beginning, because it's really a policy which is complicated. In the last year of programming period, I was very much afraid that member states not to do absorption for the sake of absorption. If they have teachers and come together with business people, with local authorities, they could design what is the best for the region for the next 7-10 years.
Do you think that some regions that have lagged behind are themselves to blame, or have we just not paid enough attention to them?
We have regions where we invest a lot, but we don't see in economic growth or in terms of jobs some results. There is not any European region which is not benefit for European money. Being from Netherlands to Germany to France, I was in Berlin, for instance, and I was so much proud of how they deal with refugees. I was in the suburb and the regeneration of urban areas, also in Paris. So I very much encourage all the member states to use our funds for these projects.
Commissioner, on that note, when an idea or a strategy looks like a success, picking up on its best practices, sharing and translating it across cities, regions and even countries can potentially recreate that success in the toughest of challenges we face today. Monica Pinto went to Portugal, where they're about to try to do just that.
What do these cities have in common? They're all arrival cities, belonging to countries on the front line for immigration. They've joined forces to develop solutions to such a huge common challenge. How? By cooperation, which is also the key of the European programme ERPACT. Its first meeting took place in the Portuguese city of Amadora.
Nobody knows everything, and I know what is going on allows us to share realities, experiences, and share new ways of approaching challenges that we face every day.
ERPACT is an instrument of the cohesion policy, co-financed by the European Regional Development Fund, the 28 member states, Norway and Switzerland.
We finance these transnational exchanges and research so that each city can have a local action plan.
At the Kickstart meeting of the Arrival Cities Network, representatives were convinced that partnerships can succeed where other strategies struggle.
Greece is not a final destination for these people, but it's just a transit country.
Our city has the highest percentage of migrant background inhabitants in Finland.
These projects are really interesting because they allow us to anticipate something that can happen before it takes place.
We had about 3,000 asylum seekers per year. This year we have already 30,000.
Mobility, youth employment and green technologies are the areas where ERPACT has collected the best results. The refugee crisis has forced the topic onto the Arrival Cities agenda.
This year, over 500,000 people have crossed the Mediterranean seeking protection in Europe. Between April and June, more than 200,000 first-time asylum seekers applied for protection in the EU, a situation that requires funds, policies and organisation.
The reception centre for refugees of Bobadilla on the outskirts of Lisbon was created in 2006 for 42 people. Now it hosts 76 refugees, and Portugal is expecting more in November.
We're supporting 61 or 62 people outside the centre and paying their accommodation. In all, we're helping 276 people. All partnerships are important and we have to work on them because we can't do everything by ourselves.
It's estimated that around 70% of the EU population live in urban areas. They're key generators of national growth, but they can also create high levels of inequality. This is why cities are the main beneficiaries of Urpact.
Still with us is Commissioner Kretsu. Is there any example you'd hold up saying, yes, this is the way you should do a partnership? Is there any saying, don't do that?
It's something that I would say to the member states, to the regions, to the managing authorities, not to add new regulations. Anyhow, these regulations that we have in place are complicated, because we have to assure the control also of the money. And if you add on the national level some other requirements, it's not good. I don't want to see any more small and medium-sized enterprises that they give up because they find the process too complicated, too lengthy, and too bureaucratic. People on the ground know best what is working, what is not necessary. So I would like to invite all of them to come with their ideas, because next year we will start to think about how this cohesion policy will look like after 2020. And we have to learn from our lessons.
It's a lot of money we're talking about. Who regulates? How do you keep it honest?
First of all, we rely very much on the national auditors, but also we have our auditors from European Commissions. We have zero tolerance to fraud. And also I think it's very important that we work with Transparency International. And of course, all the countries should agree. And
when you look at partnership and investors being pulled into the Juncker plan, is there a potential conflict of interest down the line?
No. This is not our money. The cohesion money are not touched. It's a big project, and the money from the investment bank are not enough. We can think about the combination of funds, but it's not any conflict. By the contrary, it's working together, hand in hand.